Hi and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
Hello again and welcome to another exciting episode of Z Games, Australia's most beloved gaming radio show. We are coming to you live from the 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane, and you might be hearing us around the nation on the Community Radio Network. Joining me in the studio tonight, Mr. Razor.
Hello.
There he is. Alanah Pearce.
Hi.
You are still wearing your armbands from the weekend.
Only one.
Okay.
I had three. Get it together.
Jody McGregor.
Hello.
And I am Lee. Ray, what are we talking about on this episode?
We've just returned from the weekend PAX Australia. It was a massive gaming convention / festival. We had a crap ton of fun, and we're here to share it with everyone.
Yes.
So we'll be providing our impressions and highlights of the convention, as well as hearing some interviews that we did down there. So we've got interviews with Rich Vogel, who is the executive producer of a new game called Battlecry, coming next year. We've also got an interview with 7-Bit Hero, and we'll hear some music from them as well, and an interview with the Voxel agents, who are about to launch Train Conductor 3. But let's just get the news out of the way first with Mr. Jody McGregor.
Sure thing. A recent firmware update for the PS4 has caused problems with the system's rest mode, rendering it unable to be awoken once the mode is activated. Rest mode, formerly called standby mode, put the device into a low-power state from which it could quickly awaken, but still allow games to be downloaded and controllers to be charged. Users have been advised to not use the rest mode until a fix can be deployed. The alpha weekend for Evolve was affected by the problem. As a result, the alpha was extended for all platforms for 2 extra days.
Look, the problem here is obviously that these people don't have enough pokey flutes. It's like a Snorlax, right? You just have to play your flute and then it wakes up. This is the problem. It's not actually anything to do with software, okay?
It's not technical at all.
Need to play more Pokemon
Yeah.
and get flutes, all right?
All right, we'll suggest that to Sony.
A feature by IGN has revealed a few details about the upcoming remastered version of Grand Theft Auto V for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The PC version will feature support for 4K resolution. All versions will also feature a first-person mode, allowing the game to be played from a brand new perspective. The re-release is out 18th of November for the consoles and 27th of January for the PC.
That first-person mode actually looks really, really cool.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
I guess for driving it would be good. I know a lot of people who do like to play their driving games in first person.
I wonder if like Oculus Rift shares have just gone up by a mile.
You just read my mind. This could be the ultimate Oculus Rift game. Just the attention to detail in the city. I mean, I could explore, Los Santos for hours.
People are going to die in Los Santos.
Doing the Strangers and Freaks missions with an Oculus Rift. Have you done the drug trip one?
Yeah.
That, with an Oculus Rift, would be amazing, but also terrifying.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, jumping out of a plane?
Yeah, the parachuting, right?
Oh,
That's going to be insane. And
incredible.
I saw the detail has just been ramped up, especially for the PC version.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't double dip on GTA 5, but the PC version, maybe.
Look,
with all the mods that are coming out as well, yeah.
Yeah, you know you want to.
It's too late for me. I'm already knowing that I'm going to commit a huge chunk of time to this thing again. So all those
just
things,
accept it.
All those things that annoyed me about it are still going to be there as well, but now they'll be higher resolution.
Unsubstantiated Rumor Corner. A publicly viewable LinkedIn profile has revealed that chip designer AMD is in the process of developing a smaller, more cost-effective main processor for the Xbox One. A new Xbox One model has yet to be officially announced, but this is a clue that it may not be too long before we see one.
That thing is pretty damn big. Like, really, it's annoying to transport because it's so huge. So if there were even a slightly smaller one that came out, I'd be all over that.
Or like one with wheels.
That'd be fantastic.
Yes.
Motorized?
Yeah.
You can have races? That'd be great. Let's get on that.
Okay, send that to AMD.
Patent that.
Yeah.
We'll be all good.
Now, the rest of the Z Games crew got to head down to Melbourne for the PAX convention on the weekend, and I'm not jealous at all, but please tell me how awesome it was and what I missed out on.
Well, I guess we should start by explaining what PAX is, right?
Yes.
Lee, I think you're the best person to do that.
PAX is the Penny Arcade Expo. It was started, 10 years ago by Penny Arcade, which is a webcomic all about video games and gaming culture. They wanted a place that was a bit more inclusive, that was a bit more consumer and culture friendly than what was at the time the E3 Expo, and that was pretty much it. We got one for the first time last year, and so this is the most recent one was in the Melbourne Convention Centre, which was a huge improvement over the last location. And it's basically just 3 days of people demonstrating games, people hyping up games coming up, and then a lot of just hanging out, playing with people and enjoying gaming culture, right?
I think if you look at a music festival like Big Day Out or something, like where they have a lot of bands on at the same time, a lot of activities to do, it's like that, but if you change music with gaming. It's like very much a festival celebrating gaming and gaming culture.
I feel like there's also something that really stands out about PAX is that one half of it has all of the big publishers kind of trying to sell you stuff like you would expect from something like E3, but then there are things dedicated to panels for you to go learn things and participate with other people, or gaming tournaments, speedrunning tournaments, like there's entire areas dedicated to card games and tabletop stuff, which is really cool. So there's a lot more variety than most conventions in PAX, I find. Yeah,
and there are concerts every night as well, just to top the whole thing off. So you really do, you capture so much that's great about gaming with this one event. It's a fantastic thing to attend, and sorry Jody, but we only got the free boat ride for 3. Oh. And we had to bring T-Pain.
Sorry, I didn't PAX doesn't finish until about 12, but I should mention that every single night I didn't get home until like 4. So while PAX is also like a really lovely social thing to do during the day, it's also like a party the whole time. It's fantastic, and I'm exhausted.
You guys get invited to all the secret after parties on like boats and stuff?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
Went to bed real early.
Sure you did.
So I'd like to talk about the sort of general atmosphere and the environment at PAX. It's really, I don't know, something about the people there. There's a really good vibe going out. Everyone is so enthusiastic about games, and you can't really help but absorb all the love and, all of that's going around.
Yeah, it's a really safe feeling place. You feel like everyone around you you can connect with them on some level, which I've been to other geeky conventions. You don't get that same sense of social connection, and it's particularly given the upheaval that the gaming culture has undergone in the past couple of months. It was surprising that none of that really penetrated. Everyone was still like totally cool and totally friendly. We didn't get enough of a chance to go hang out in the massive just free play and gaming areas, which is a real shame for us. But for a lot of the people who attend, like, that's a big deal, is just going and sitting in a beanbag and playing the 3DS with hundreds of people around them, or just sitting down and playing tabletop at games with people they've never met and having a fantastic time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with all of the, I guess, social ugliness that's been going on in the games industry or games community at the moment, PAX just like completely made me forget about that. Yeah. And I was like, well, it's such a small amount of people. Like, it's one of the only places that I've ever been to where I overhear there was a guy who was explaining to a girl who Deadpool was, and I was just happy to join into that conversation. I was not welcome in any way, but I was like, let's jump in on this. And then I just made friends with those people. And there was like a group of 6 people that I met at one of the evening events, and I just asked them what games they were all playing, and we ended up chatting for like several hours. And it's just, I don't know how PAX does it, but it is absolutely one of the most welcoming things ever, and everyone just feels like they're friends. And I honestly don't know how it's so different to everything else I've been to, but it does it beautifully.
Yeah, it's a really friendly convention.
Now let's talk about some of the content highlights that we all had. Now, This a bit of a disclaimer because we didn't go there as punters. We were actually running around for most of the day doing various tasks. Lee and I were chasing up interviewees and we had a very tight schedule. Alanah, you were busy doing a billion things, talking on panels, conducting interviews and streaming for Twitch and all that exciting stuff. So none of us really got the punter experience, so we won't be able to tell you what it's like to go, as a paying customer. But still, we had a bit of a chance. We set some time aside to check out some of the attractions at the convention. So, Alanah, what were some of your highlights?
I think probably the panels. I feel like PAX has such a good variety of panels. There were panels on making games. There were panels where people were making cosplays in a small amount of time. Several trivia panels, which are just a lot of fun. There were more focused things, like panels about what they don't tell you about working in the games industry, and ones about social media's do's, don'ts, and WTFs. And I just feel like that's a resource that before PAX I didn't know we even really had in Australia. There's a lot of academic people and people who are really well spoken that I didn't even realize, who just get up on stage and discuss their area of expertise in a way that you never really have access to in any other place. And I just thought that all of the ones that I went to and all of the ones that I were on felt productive, but also fun, funny, and everyone knew what they were talking about. And I feel like that was a really awesome thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
Lee and I went to a good one as well, the comedy and gaming one.
Oh, yeah.
And, Lee's, one of your heroes was on the panel?
Yeah, Ron Gilbert, who made Monkey Island amongst all of my other favourite games, was up there just being the elder statesman of comedy and gaming. And it was a real thrill to actually be in a room with him, having him put down all of the other young Turks in the room, trying to pretend that they were as funny as he could ever be. Yeah, but that was a fantastic panel. In fact, that was put together by Ben O'Brien of Big Head Mode, our Sydney friends, and the second best gaming radio show in Australia. So well done, Ben, for an amazing job there.
So did you get to play anything?
We got to play a couple of things. Lee and I got to play Mortal Kombat 10, which doesn't come out until the first quarter of next year, so it was a bit of an early sneak peek.
Yeah.
I chose Sub-Zero, and Lee, you chose the daughter of Sonya Blade and Cage?
Yeah, Johnny Cage, yes.
Yeah. I was Sub-Zero when I played.
Yep.
Yeah. We are massive fans of Mortal Kombat 9 in my house. It is frequently in rotation. All other gaming events end with Mortal Kombat in my place. And so number 10 feels like it's improving on all the things that worked out really well there.
Was there anything you didn't like about it?
I'm curious as to whether the different fighting styles will really amount to much at all. But what was there was what worked about the last one. It felt very physical, and the basic moves all worked the same, which is one of the things I really, really enjoy about that series.
I think Mortal Kombat has a really kind of slow, I want to say clunky, but not in a negative way. It's slow, precise, really solid fighting game where a lot of others can feel... Yeah, there you go. Where a lot of others can feel really flimsy, and I feel like 10 was exactly the same, just better graphics, really great sound design, and maybe a little bit more brutal.
Yeah, very...
Or maybe equally, but just better graphics, so it looks worse.
Could be that.
We didn't get to test out the fatalities because we only had one round, and, you need to do
They're pretty gross.
The complex button thing, so... Yeah, I'm sure if we could have done them, we would have been sickened and grossed out. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Would have loved to have stolen one of those Xboxes. Maybe next time.
Next time we'll steal an Xbox. All right, moving along. How about you, Ray? What was the best game you played?
Aside from Mortal Kombat, I'd probably have to say some of the good stuff in the indie area was really excellent. There was quite a large indie pavilion. I think maybe... I don't know if it was bigger than last year, but it was certainly more organised.
Yeah. It would have been at least twice the size, actually. They had a lot more space this time, a lot more people presenting. It was fantastic.
So we got to see the latest builds of stuff like Assault Android Cactus, Ninja Pizza Girl, Hand of Fate. But one of the games that caught my eye was Expand, which was a cool little puzzler with a great soundtrack. And we'll have to talk about more of that in a future episode.
Yep. Yeah. One of the real highlights for me, I think, was again the Indie Pavilion, being able to actually just be there interacting with the developer while you're playing the game.
It's really easy to do as well, and there was so much traffic that there the way that it was set out was kind of like a maze, and you could just walk through it really easily and just walk up to someone and be like, "Hi, tell me about your game," and they were just so happy to do that. It was really, really well set up.
Yeah, you don't ever get that. At other conventions, you deal with PR people and marketing people, but here the actual designers of the game are right there, and they can tell you, why they think their game is cool.
They all seemed excited to be there too, which was always awesome. So
yeah. So I think the PAX does really well by the local industry, and I hope that they continue to support them to that same level, or more so, more indies.
Yes.
We also got to play both of the Assassin's Creed games that are coming out this month.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Rogue and Unity. Now, I've got to say, Assassin's Creed Rogue, meh. You know what I mean?
What a pointless addition to the franchise.
It's kind of like,
We were going to dance around that one.
Were you?
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, well, I think I just saved myself like $59,
Yeah.
which was good. Unity, on the other hand, different story. They've
Hey,
actually...
I feel like we should mention why Rogue was pointless
Yeah.
first.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Rogue is exactly the same as Assassin's Creed 4, just with ice.
Yeah.
That's summed up.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pirates on ice.
Absolutely it.
It's
Whoa.
it's
Not as good as that sounds.
no, that would be great.
Well, I don't think it's going to be crap or bad. Don't get me wrong. I just think that we already have that game. It's already out.
1.5 times, in fact, we already
Yeah.
have that game.
And better.
Yeah.
So what? But back to Unity, right?
Yeah.
The other one.
I noticed a lot of changes. Like the art style has got a sort of watercolor thing going on, like Dishonored from last year. The movement feels a lot more refined. I wasn't like stumbling around on little blocks or scampering up the edges of walls like I do in every other Assassin's Creed game. That was something that was good.
One thing that is a lot more helpful
Yeah.
than it seems like it should be is that if you want to climb down, instead of using one of the sticks on a controller, you just press B, like on an Xbox
Yes.
controller.
Yeah.
Weirdly helpful, because you feel like you have so much more control over where exactly you're dropping down, and you're not just falling off of buildings when you didn't want to and stuff, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, it feels like they've actually started learning some of the lessons that they could have learned after maybe the first game,
Maybe.
and finally applied them now 6 or 7 games into the franchise.
So what did you guys actually play? Because I played it at Gamescom, but didn't play it at PAX. So what was it, free roam or?
Yeah, free roam in the Notre Dame area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got into some fights. I lost a lot of fights. Combat is actually something you can lose now, which I was surprised by and shamed in front of a crowd. So thanks,
Yay!
Unity, you jerk.
You mean you could actually win in combat in that game?
Yeah.
I spent the whole time just running for my life. I felt like I had the entire, all the authorities in that town just on my tail, and I was just desperately looking for like a little haystack to run into, but I didn't find one.
Yeah, but I remember like in Assassin's Creed 2 or maybe even Brotherhood, at one point they were infinitely spawning enemies, and I just had this pile of like 50 of them just in front of me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm an assassin, stealth and stuff, and there's just like mountain of corpses beneath my feet.
Yeah, it seems like they're going back to the concept, at least, that they were aiming for with the first one, being that you have to figure out a way of getting into a place and then sneak through there without alerting anyone, and then getting out again without alerting anyone. The last games haven't really done that at all. They've just let you have a cannon and shoot the guy.
I mean, they had those really great missions where you have to like not be seen whilst you're staying inside this weird bubble and listening to people
just
whilst walking
thinking
slowly.
about them.
Aren't those great?
Ugh.
Those are not great. They're the worst. But one thing that I'm particularly interested in about Unity that I didn't really get to experience that you guys may have is the equipment changes. So your equipment has stats. And, if you wear a certain kind of hood, it will give you a stealth boost, make you less likely to be seen, or a damage boost or whatever. So you can fully customize everything you're wearing, which I think sounds cool.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm going to spend a great deal of time making sure that my assassin outfit is cooler than everyone else's.
You can also buy dye to make sure everything matches, which
Good.
I feel is very important.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was stressed about that.
yeah. That's all I will do is dress up my silly Frenchman.
I think it seems like for the first time in a long time, they've really made notable additions to the formula. Assassin's Creed 4 was good because of the ships and because of the exploration, but really it was only a slight update.
Mission
from 3.
design itself, aside from when you're on
Yes.
ships, was exactly the same.
Yeah.
I feel like the last one that was in any way innovative was Brotherhood.
Yeah.
It looks like the first time they've actually looked at the game with under a magnifying glass and thought, what are we going to change to make it better?
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Finally.
Okay, we're going to head into an interview now with one of the indie developers, the Voxel agents. They're about to launch a game called, well, next year they're about to launch a game called Train Conductor 3, which is, of course, a follow-up from their successful Train Conductor series. So let's hear that now. All right, we've just grabbed Simon from the Voxel agents, and we've just had a little playthrough of Train Conductor 3 here at PAX Australia 2014. Having a great time. Now, Simon, can you tell us a little bit about Train Conductor 3?
Okay, for the unfamiliar, Train Conductor is a action arcade game. The aim is to get the highest score possible by connecting trains to their proper destination and trying to stay on top of the maniac kind of flow of trains running through the level.
The previous Train Conductor games have been very popular, very successful. You've been developing for mobile since 2009. What kind of changes have you had to make to adapt to this very, very fluid development area?
Yeah, it's a good question. There has been so many changes since we started in 2009. It's amazing. I mean, not only just in Australia and how the development scene here locally has changed, but the App Store is constantly evolving. And we've been through so many trends already, it feels like. You know, we had the Angry Birds trend and everyone wanting to copy that, and then there was the Candy Crush, and there's been the Clash of Clans, and now I feel like we're going through like the zany, almost like minor distraction game, like that Flappy Bird kind of kicked off. So we've seen so many different kind of games, and it's really exciting to see it all constantly evolving and always something fresh, and I'm really happy to be part of it because I feel like it's a great way to be making games. I really like to make those highly focused kind of I wouldn't say simple, but like really, really clear. Like you get straight to the point of the game really quickly, and I like making those kind of experiences.
What can fans of Train Conductor expect with the release of Train Conductor 3?
Well, it's going to be the best that we could possibly ever imagine. I can say that much. We have had a lot of time to reflect on what was great about 1 and 2, and looking back at all the experiments that we did inside those games. Like, they really went in some pretty wild directions. You know, we had ghosts, and we had demon trains, and we had all kinds of crazy stuff, and it was great fun. Like, definitely, I think, good choices, but we're stripping it back, and we're looking at the real essence of what makes Train Conductor tick, and going back to that core experience and nailing that, you know. So a lot of what we've done is informed by that choice, and we're really focusing in on that experience where you feel almost like an omnipotent railway network master, and you're just managing to keep everything flowing, and, you know, by the skin of your teeth you're avoiding collisions, and yeah, it's good fun.
And do you have a release date now for Train Conductor 3?
Would a release date be an entire year? Is that acceptable?
I guess that's fine.
2015, yeah.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Simon, very much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
We're chatting with Rich Vogel of Battlecry Studios. So we've just had a play session of Battlecry, a very adrenaline-pumping, action-packed game. Can you tell the listeners about Battlecry?
Yeah, I mean, basically we are a team action combat game, and we basically took our influences from other games like God of War, Team Fortress 2, Arkham Asylum, and Devil May Cry. And so we wanted to put that in a multiplayer setting, and basically kind of like our pitch is kind of like Team Fortress 2 meets the brutality of 300. It's kind of like what we talk about, but it's a lot of fun. It's very frenetic. We wanted to make sure our combat was visceral when we designed this game to begin with. We wanted to make sure we had that experience, and we wanted to make something different rather than a MOBA that everyone else is doing. We wanted to do something kind of out of the box, so to speak, in an area that we don't know anybody in right now. So it's been very kind of nerve-wracking, because when you have a new IP and not an area anybody's in, you don't know whether it's going to resonate or not, or why other people haven't been here before. So it's good to see we've been in several consumer shows, and it always starts out with a small line, and then by the end of the day it gets bigger and bigger and bigger by the end of the show, which means, hey, I think we really have something here. So very proud about it.
I can see Team Fortress, God of War, and Devil May Cry, but when you say Arkham Asylum, are you specifically referring to the grapple, or have there been other influences from that game?
Grapple, but there've been, just a combat loop more than anything else. The good news is we have a lot of FPS designers, first-person shooter designers on our team. You can see that with our map, a lot of verticality in it. Those people worked on God of War and Halo and other games like that, so you can kind of see that influence in it, because it's kind of a very cool little mixture of things put together. I think the biggest thing we wanted to do in this game was make it somewhat different that would appeal to people who enjoy playing multiplayer games. One of our biggest influences is making sure that when we do female wars, that women would be inspired to play them. And that was been our big tack. If you look at our warriors in our game and our videos and everything, you see the female warrior there, and she is a tough, very tough person, and that's something we wanted to aspire to attract female players, actually.
Can you tell us more about the character classes that you have?
Yes, we have 5 character classes. 3 are on the floor that you can play. We have the Enforcer, which is the tank class of our game. He can take a lot of damage. We have the Duelist, which is the assassin, the stealth, the person that comes in quickly and leaves quickly because they don't have very big health on them. And then we have the Tech Archer, which is the ranged person, and on top of that we have the Gadgeteer, which is a support class. That class can lay mines and other cool things like that. And then we have the Brawler, which is more of a one-on-one type of combat. Each one has its own abilities and own capabilities and tactics that you use for them. So we have both range and melee mixed into the game, because we didn't want to make an all-range game because it would be like a clump, almost like if you look at a scrum match, that's exactly what would it be when you do a lot of melee. So we want to make sure we kind of mix it up with range and melee for that reason.
It's a very fast-paced game, almost stressful, I would say. So having all of those classes in something that is so action-packed, fast-paced, what's the process to actually make sure that all of the classes are balanced?
It's a continuing process. We balance all the time. In fact, we're just putting in the 2 classes now into the game, the last 2 classes before we release, and we have to do a lot of balancing when we do that. Every class that comes into our game has to be balanced toward the other classes, and so there's a lot of iteration that goes in that. It takes several months to get that kind of just right. And we know that when we go into beta, it's not going to be quite there, and that's why we're going into beta in a limited way right now to kind of balance that out.
So I was playing as the assassin class, and I was getting pretty messed up in those melee instances. So I found that evading was a really, really important part of the game, but it did take me a while to learn that. So is there going to be a large variety of maps, and will a lot of them cater to you being able to get away if you really need to?
Absolutely. Our game modes and maps, we have several in the works now. We've been experimenting. We have several that we call R&D efforts. We have smaller maps. We are going to be competitive sports we're going to try to go after, so we are going to move down. We are 16v16 right now. We were playing 8v8 earlier. We'll probably go down a little tighter on the maps for 5v5 or something similar to that for competitive sports. So when we do that, we have to make sure our designs fit for all the classes well, right? And each area within the map, there are areas for the archers. There are going to be areas for the duelists to hide and to attack and things like that. So, and evade, right? So absolutely. And then, we'll look at, as we balance too, well, you know what? The duelist seems to be very underpowered in these situations. How can we add an ability here that will help that duelist get out of situations easier?
I noticed at the end of the game you have the option to salute your enemies, and is this to encourage sportsmanship?
Absolutely. One of the things I've learned, and I've been doing online games for about 18 years now. One of the biggest things I learned is you should use game design to promote better behavior. Right? You just need to. And a lot of times when you have bad behavior, it's because, in my opinion, some game mechanic that you have is causing that friction to occur. And so we are trying to develop what I call social engineering into our game. And I'm a big believer in that. So things like saluting and being able to reward players that have done well in the game. We also wanted to make sure death didn't sting all the time or feel bad all the time, right? So when you die, you can get back in quickly and enjoy the game. That's the other thing we tried to do. So there's not a lot of punishment going on here. So if you're a team and you make some bad choices, it's not going to kill you.
So Rich, you've in your career worked on a great many online RPGs. I lost a lot of my teenage years to Ultima Online, so thank you for that. Why now have you moved on to this very, this action combat, narratively limited, I guess? And is it a sea change? Is it just?
That's a great question. So, first of all, the MMOs that I worked on took so long to make. I really realized how long it took to make those things, and I realized, wow, that's too long a time and effort going into that. And they do take a tremendous amount of time and effort. And so I was kind of burned out, to be honest with you. And I wanted to look around. Actually, I got hooked on League of Legends and World of Tanks, and really bad with League of Legends in 2009. And I know those guys really well, and I was wondering why. And the reason is I like the short play sessions. I like to go in and leave and have fun and go out, meet people. And League of Legends is a little different for me because it was very hostile for a while when I was a noob until I got better. Then I felt better about it. But boy, man, I hate to be a starter in that game. Oh my God. And that's kind of where the social systems came in. I learned a lot with League of Legends on the social systems and how, and that's why we shortened our time frame too, because I thought 45 minutes for a match. And you mess up in that match, you cause a lot of damage, right? And so that's one of the things I tried to avoid in the game design of this game, too, was what I learned there, I try to apply here in our game. And so that's why you see shorter sessions, not too critical if someone screws up, where you have a bunch of people mad at you, you have to stay there for 45 minutes or so to complete it, right? And that, to me, was a really big incentive, right? And the social engineering is a part of the aspect I realize really has to be planned up front in a game like this. And I like short session games. They're fun to get into with your friends. You can play for a while. You don't take your life away. And I just don't have time for that anymore, right? And I think that's kind of like what the generation I see now doing. I look at that and I say, people just don't have the time like they used to anymore. Investment. So I kind of looked around and looked for white space. I didn't want to do an FPS. I didn't want to do a MOBA. I didn't want to do an action RPG. And I said, what else is there? And then I worked with Victor Antonov. He's the creative director on this project. He did TF2 and as well as Half-Life 2 and Dishonored as a creative director. And between us, we came up with this concept that you see here.
So you mentioned League of Legends and the fact that you really liked it. A lot of the women in League of Legends are very scantily clad or provocatively dressed. So how do you think that having the women in Battlecry dressed appropriately will influence your players socially like some of the other mechanics might?
That is why I did that. All right, I am tired of games being so male-centric and that women cannot be aspired to be that. So I looked at Lafin Lakita, the woman with the dragon tattoo. Those are tough-looking women you don't want to mess with. But there's something that women can aspire to. That's why we did the women the way we did. That was the other thing I took away from it.
We were discussing when we were watching the trailer how cool all of the swords are.
Yes.
Is there someone who has a job that they just get to design awesome swords?
Yes. We have a guy, Francisco. He did Pacific Rim. He was the lead concept person for Pacific Rim. And so he's designing a lot of our weapons and things like that. Awesome. Yeah, he's amazing. He's just incredible asset to have. We have a great team. And him and Victor working together between the two are just amazing coming out, because we have this pansopic technology that exists because I said, Victor, now how are we going to do this and not make it an FPS? We have to have some kind of backstory. He says, it's a world without gunpowder. and I said, fine, that's perfect. Now write a backstory and get going on that. And so that's why we did that. And so now, all right, that didn't happen. What would the weapons look like? All that iteration and generation, kind of like I look at it as like Da Vinci, right? All the design and drawings and things like that. So a lot of our weapons, and it's really cool because as you gain tiers in our game, levels, you will have different, cooler weapons to play with that will have even better abilities. It's really cool. Some of the weapon designs that I've seen on the wall, as I walk by, I stop for a minute because I haven't seen that one. I said, oh my God, that's cool. I'd like to play that.
And speaking of weapons and buying that, it's a free-to-play game.
Yes.
Now, Team Fortress 2 has had a lot of success with that model. What sort of things will be available to purchase?
We're going to start limited store because we don't know what players really want. We're going to kind of guess it and kind of push stuff out there, and we're going to let the players tell us. Right, and that's why I sat there and said, could we waste our time, develop a whole bunch of stuff that no one wants to buy, or start with a base unit of stuff and let the players start telling us what they like? I think that's a better approach, personally, myself.
Rich, thank you very much for speaking with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You were listening to Zed Games. That was our interview with Rich Vogel of Battlecry Studios, talking about his upcoming game, Battlecry. Speaking of Battlecry, guys, what did you think of playing the game Battlecry?
So I had a lot of fun playing Battlecry, but it's very frantic and it's very hard to respond to things if you're failing. You know how when you start a new game, initially, if it's a multiplayer game, a lot of it feels like trial and error. Like when you start playing Dota, you're like, I know this is going to take me 10 hours to improve, but I will stick with those 10 hours. I did not get the impression that I could improve in any way from Battlecry. I had no idea how much damage I was doing at any point. It was really hard to tell if someone was really damaging me a lot until my screen was going red and I was just about to die. So I think maybe because it is so fast-paced, it was almost to its detriment. Like it was a negative impact on the game in that you have no way to receive anything.
Yeah. It's really quick, but you don't get enough information to know whether there's anything that you can do to respond to that. It doesn't really feel like you've got enough options.
No
You've got
health
a lot of
bars or damage numbers or...
You've got a lot of like combat abilities that you can activate, but they just seem to make damage go up, and everyone else is using them at you anyway. There's no real, like, why would you not be using them? Because you're about to die in a second anyway, so it's not like you've got a cooldown to worry about.
Well, the different classes are supposed to be stronger or weaker. It doesn't really feel like they are, because you have no way of actually telling who is doing the most damage or who is the strongest or anything like that. But at the same time, I still found it really fun.
Yeah. Look, keeping in mind that we were playing like a pre-alpha or something, right? So a lot of that feedback is going to be probably readily available by the time the retail thing swings around.
I mean, if you look at the crew on the game, the personnel, it's just an amazing lineup of people. Like Rich Vogel himself, obviously, he's a bigwig. He's worked on Star Wars, The Old Republic, and Ultima Online. But there's also people that have worked on Team Fortress 2, Half-Life 2, Call of Duty. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. And talking to Rich, he seemed like he was actually very dedicated to improving the game based on player feedback.
Yeah.
Hopefully that happens, because like we didn't have microphones to talk to each other, but I felt like if we did, that would have changed it completely. If we could have coordinated where we were all going at once and could have told other team members that we were evading because our health was down and we'd come back, being able to do that would influence the game hugely, I think. And not only talking to each other, but being able to actually, I guess this is a great part of betas, is being able to tell the developers themselves what we want to change. And I think that game probably just needs like a nudge in the right direction, and it will do that.
Yeah, look, as much as we found it a bit chaotic and lacking in feedback, at the same time it was really fun just to play. It felt really responsive. It looked amazing even at this early stage. So there's a lot to... That leads me to think that it's probably going to be a pretty good thing on release. And
as he said in the interview, he didn't want dying to feel punishing, and it didn't. All of the things that he said in that interview were correct. Like, it wasn't overly punishing. The women were represented really well. You weren't angry playing it. It was the kind of game that encouraged you to feel like happy afterwards, and that's a really nice goal. I think he has a nice vision. So
Yeah, the fact that at the end of the game you can go around and salute the opposing team is such a clever idea, just to make everyone elevated, I guess, rather than to drag society through the mud like other competitive online games.
Like Titanfall.
Maybe a little bit. I love the end of Titanfall. That's great when you get to either escape to the ship while everyone's trying to kill you or ensure that people can't get on the ship. But at the same time, that just makes you feel even worse about the opposing team. Like, the game ends and you suddenly have to hide because someone's going to get a free mercy kill on you. Like, no. This is... and it happened here. We lost our matches and the game continued to go, and I was like, oh no, they're going to come for us now. What do we do? And people came up to salute me.
Yes. And you get XP for it as well, which is really cool.
I felt relieved.
Yeah. I don't have to run for my life.
Yeah.
Yay!
It's like they came up and they patted me on the back and gave me a cup of tea, and they're like, you know what? Everyone has a rough time. That's all right,
So Battlecry doesn't come out till next year, but here in Australia we'll be getting first access to the beta, which should hopefully be in the first quarter or half of next year, I think. Yeah, so keep your eye out for that. Now, a big part of PAX was the musical guests. There was MC Frontalot, Tripod, Freeze Pop, all of those guys are like some of my favorite musicians. So we had the pleasure of talking to Hans from 7-Bit Hero, so let's hear that now. Still here at PAX 2014. We just stumbled into Bandland and we pulled aside Hans and Adam from 7-Bit Hero. Guys, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us this afternoon. So just for people who aren't familiar with the 7-Bit Hero project, how would you describe it?
It's a mashup of video games and music all at the same time. So you come out to our show and you will play video games that we've created, and we just do that through your mobile phone. So you don't need to bring anything other than your phone, and you play. And that's really it. Last time I saw you guys at the State Library of Queensland, I think that was one of your early shows.
Oh, yeah.
You only had functionality for maybe 10 or 20 people to play at the same time. Now tonight you're playing in front of what? How many thousands is it?
Yeah, a couple thousand from what I've heard. I don't know.
Is there a way for more people to play tonight?
Well, what we have is we have different kind of things going on and in place. So we've got this new one called the Main Menu Song, and 40 people are in there. It's not really a game, less a collision. And you're swimming in a aquarium like little fish, and you just smash into each other during the duration of the song. And I thought that was really fun, and it made us laugh. And then halfway through the song, gravity kicks in, and all the bodies go like flying against the wall. So it's little things like that. The gaming side of things are concentrated on, at the moment, 8 to 12 players. It fluctuates between that. But we have a total of 4 games. And then we have these new things called sync experiences, which is with our song Flappy Birds, which deals with bullying with game developers. We actually kind of do a fake Twitter, and we actually tweet to everyone's phones what the guy actually went through and what that looks like, and then we infuse that with a bit of when I say we should let love win this, and a little love hearts appear on there just to kind of like tell a story with what's going on with that. So that's a new kind of thing that we're testing tonight to see how much we can flood it out. We also have a new wireless guy that's come on board, and he deals with really high-end volume kind of stuff. And so he's like pushing for about 500 people connected tonight. So I'm so excited if that can happen. He's thinking that about 300 people will possibly be able to, but as physics changes, which it's not going to, but as things kind of change a bit, you'll find that you'll be able to get thousands of people, and then we should be able to get a ridiculous amount of people playing together.
So is it safe to say that this 7-Bit Hero project has been one big experiment?
The thing that's always driven my dialogue in my head is I want to see a physical manifestation of the thing between physical and digital. So it's being able to cause death conditions on stage, that the band has to collapse down, that the party pop, the confetti cannons are controlled as bonus extras by the crowd. So as you level up, you get rights to shoot them off at any time. Lighting rigs, we want to have keyboard solos happen halfway through where someone steals the keyboard solo rights. So there's this whole other dialogue where we're creating, if we get to do it, there's a whole other universe that I've got this huge kind of multiplayer game that exists as a single player experience, and then when you come along it opens up into this huge multiplayer experience.
It seems to me like PAX would be your ideal concert setting.
It is. It really is our crowd. You look at even with the Flappy Bird song that we did, like everyone here at PAX knows about bullying or knows this concept of what it is. And my heart is kind of in people that don't know this. Like, there's this whole commercial aspect of people that just don't give a crap about this stuff. And so at 7-Bit Hero's heart, it's kind of a bit like on this education level where I'd really love the majority of society to give a crap about this stuff instead of just like everyone at PAX gets this and it's really lovely. But where our heart's kind of at is like putting down these like little foundations for people who just don't get it. And so I'm really hoping that by combining all these simple things together that it'll kind of connect. If not, then we'll only be playing for a bunch of people that get this and know it, which is awesome. Like, I love that as well. And I'm really happy with that outcome. But I'm really hoping that it pushes a little bit beyond that and we start getting people that come along that aren't aware of how amazing the PAX community or the gaming community is, that it's like metal people. Like, they're so lovely. They're so incredible. Like, you know.
You have a deep admiration for the metal culture.
Oh, dude, like, I remember catching a cab once, and the cabbie's just like, what's going on tonight? And I'm just like, oh, there's a metal concert on. And he goes, everyone here is so lovely. And I'm just like, I know, right? Because, you know, there's this thing that if you're doing some things that are a little bit more violent, then somehow you've got to be an awful person. And like, you look at video games and all these kind of things, it isn't. It's this community of people, and we kind of get each other, and you're a bit more respective of everyone's like little things, like whether you like Jax from
Mass Effect.
Yeah, from Mass Effect, or whether you don't. Like, Miranda's kind of cool as well. But it's that kind of thing where it's just like equally, like, you know, you can like whoever you like.
Caden?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. You can, apparently, as well.
Man, best of luck for the show tonight. I hope it goes well, both artistically and technically.
Yeah, thank you so much. If anything goes wrong, it's great audience for everything to go
best
wrong.
audience for a beta test.
Yeah, and we will announce this. Like, there is going to be some terrible outcomes, but it's going to be so much fun.
Hi, you're listening to Zed Games. Welcome back. I'm Alanah. I'm joined by the others. They're, you know, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're okay.
Yeah, you know, mediocre, really. So, I'm joking. I have, of course, Mr. Jody. I have Lee, and I have Razor.
Hey.
And we've been talking about PAX, and overall, I think we had a really, really positive time, except for Jody because he couldn't make it.
Oh.
Let's all point at him and laugh. No, but really, we did have a fantastic time, and we'll be talking about it some more next week in part 2 of our PAX special.
What can we look forward to next week? On the
More
show?
interviews, actually. We still have a bunch of great interviews that we unfortunately did not have time to air
Like
this evening.
whom?
Tripod,
Oof.
the guys from Wargaming who are putting out World of Warships next year. Actually, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Funny,
looks
huh?
really good.
And
Really?
Yeah.
it actually does.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about
Is
it
it
next
not the
week.
same as World of Tanks, but just with ships?
No, it's
Nah.
this is a surprise to us as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a whole host of awesome indie developers as well. So
Cool.
tune in next week at the same time for more PAX goodness. We are going to get out of your hair now. We're going to play one more song. What have we got, Jody?
This is from the soundtrack to Shovel Knight. It's Jake Kaufman with Spin Ye Bottle.
Be excellent to each other and party on, everybody.